kind of outlandish, but it was about 90% accurate, which is pretty amazing. In fact, for all of us, and that's pretty good for Peter. It's amazing how those of us who are fellows and have had the privilege of going back regularly to those places and countries where we had that experience, and how time moves on, and how you're able to keep in touch with people. The vice governor that Peter mentioned just now is in New York City tonight. He's chairman of the China Construction Bank, and tonight is the grand opening of the new U.S. branch for the China Construction Bank. So Chairman Guo Shuqing continues to do well, and it was actually Peter Geithner who originally introduced me to him. He was this guy sent out by Zhu Rongji to try his hand on 36 million people, and Peter had known him, and so we, not a lot going on in Guizhou province, so spent a lot of time with Guo Shuqing and continue to stay in touch. So I called him to wish him congratulations this afternoon. So time moves on, doesn't it? I do have some prepared remarks. I really apologize. I didn't anticipate that the car ride would take between 7 and 8 hours. But the way we practiced my talk was I was driving, and Guo read it a number of times, and we kind of worked through it. So if anything goes wrong, it's Guo's fault. One thing that's changed with me is I now use reading glasses. So the whiter hair, the reading glasses. But it is there are times where words don't work, and it's times like this when we're together. And this is a family that is good with words, both written and spoken, and it's a time where words do not work. It is, the first thing I want to say is ICWA is family, and that is true for all of us. That's one of the most compelling realities, I think, of what we've experienced now for, you said anniversaries, but we're up to almost 80?
Yeah.
About 80 years for ICWA. But even though we're family, 84, okay. So even though we're family, we know, those of us who have been fellows, that an ICWA fellowship is at times a lonely calling when you're out in the field and you're trying to understand, and this ICWA family is far away. Now, thankfully, Peter would give lots of written comments, lots of reading, so at least you were connected that way. But I understand back in the day, Phil, I remember you talking to me months before you'd hear from headquarters. But the ICWA fellowship is at times a lonely calling, but it's something we share in community, and it is wonderful to be back tonight. Some of you might remember, in fact, a very important anniversary for me. It was, in fact, 10 years ago this year that I wrapped up my fellowship and came back and gave the final talk, the end of the fellowship talk. And some of you who were there, you might have remembered there was a question, and after the question-answer period, my mother had been taking care of our 2 young children. Margaret was 4 at the time, and John was 2.5. And it was just kind of this timing, which we didn't plan, but lunch was going to start at about, say, 1 o'clock or whatever. And my mom kind of was going to bring the kids to join us for lunch. And the back of whatever that room is called at the Cosmos Club that we always meet in, right kind of on cue, my mom opened up the doors in the back. We were just wrapping up the question and answer, and here this little 4- and 3-year-old saw me up front. That's all they saw. And they just started running right down the middle of the stage. And some of you remember that. And I have a picture. My mom took a picture of Margaret and John running from behind. They were 4 and 3 at the time. Margaret's now 14. John is 12. And then we have 2 more young ICWA fellows. Peter is 5, and James is 4.5. And I'd like them to stand. They're in the back. Stand up. So John's got a baseball game tomorrow, so we let him stay for that his final game. but we'll look forward to interacting with you all tomorrow. We're going to be talking, among other issues, and particularly Brazil, we're going to be talking a fair amount about China this weekend, about our collective memory of what China has meant to us and our experience with China. And then I understand we're going to be talking about where we think China is going. So what I would like to do with your indulgence this evening is be a little bit more personal and talk about how I have been working since my end of my fellowship in kind of my approach, if you will, my approach of how I've kind of developed a frame for how I work at understanding China. And in large part, that frame has been shaped by my ICWA fellowship. I'm a little bit talkative too, so I'll try to be disciplined with my remarks, because the most fun is always the question and answer time. So I'll try to be disciplined with the time, but I would like to kind of lay out kind of three, I'll refer to three keys to understanding, and how it's in different kind of jobs I've had, and very different jobs, with Hopkins Nanjing, which is more of an academic administrative job, to working with a think tank that was a legacy of Scoop Jackson, the National Bureau of Asian Research. And then I had the privilege of serving with Secretary Paulson for 2 years, and now for the last 3 months working in the international business kind of strategy firm with Warren Rudman, former Senator Warren Rudman, and Sandy Berger and some others, a former ambassador to Brazil, Tony Harrington. But through that, how do we, in whatever we're doing with China, and I think a lot of this is true for any country in the world, how do we develop an understanding that's meaningful and also effective? Actually, just last month, I was in Guizhou province, about 3 weeks ago, to be exact. I was with the CEO of the world's largest solar company, and he wanted to get a very broad look at China. So he took 2 weeks out of the schedule, and we were in 5 different provinces, and we wanted to kind of get lots of different looks, not just think about solar widgets. So of course, I'm always looking for a reason to get back to Guizhou, and we spent a couple days there in Guizhou, and while I was there, some old friends got together for dinner, and one of the old friends was Principal B. I don't know if you remember Principal B, you met Principal B. In fact, Barron's ended up republishing one of my reports. It was called Principal B and the P word, privatization. And Principal B joined us, and we had a nice little chat. But what it recalled to me, these things bring a flood of memories. Principal B continues to be the principal of that computer school, the private vocational computer school. He had to effectively flee Guizhou province for about 3 years, where there was some local guys who were trying to take over a successful business illegally. And he went to the coast for a couple years to teach, but has come back. I think I've talked about this before, but on the last week we were in Guizhou province, Principal B came up to me, and he had this little gift in his hand, and he had a big smile. And usually in China, when people give gifts, they're like, oh, this is nothing much, but just a little token. And he was the opposite extreme. He was very excited. He said, I was thinking about your gift for a long, long time, and I've got a wonderful gift for you. And he was just very excited. And of course, I was very grateful for a gift from him. And I unwrapped it, and I opened this. This is the gift. This box, with this kind of red velvet on the top, and there were 3 keys in the box. And he said, these 2 are to my school, and this is to my home. I wanted you to have a set. And that just really touched me. I mean, just such a powerful gesture of him saying, you're part of my world, not just my work world at my school, but also I want you to have a key to my home. And it was very special. I've kept on this on my desk in every job I've had since then, and I often think about it.